Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here. Welcome. Today we are going to be checking out a full run of the boss rush in Shikhondo Soul Eater. This is on hard mode specifically, which I had never done before. In my last phase with the game, which I think was maybe 8 months ago or something, I did normal mode for the first time, and I think I did normal boss rush mode as well. And that was actually when I finally knew about how to just more or less remove the movement issue that I've talked about numerous times, just by using an arcade stick. So I was finally able to dig in. Anyway, I always knew that I wanted to start tackling hard mode for like a normal full run of the game, not just boss rush. But one thing I kind of have been doing the last few days is just switching between boss rush for just getting more experience with the bosses, and then doing full runs, of course. So just today, or at least I'll probably be dropping this for tomorrow morning, but it's Thursday now anyway, when I cleared this. It didn't take too long, but it certainly required just kind of making sure I don't mess up certain things. I think one of the biggest, I'm not sure how to word it really, but one of the things that trips me up the most, maybe that's how I'll word it. One of the things that trips me up the most when I play this is just getting like hit by super tiny pebbles during certain attacks. You'll see perfect examples of this during, I think, the stage 4 boss. Sometimes I'm definitely getting much more improved with the stage 2 boss, which we'll see. Like massively, actually. It's been amazing seeing the progress, because that's one I used to always struggle with for very specific attacks, but I have been improving, and that's been really cool. Just because, yeah, it's really strange whether you're doing boss rush or full runs, or at least for myself, I'll sometimes be able to do it flawlessly without using bombs or losing lives. And other times I'll take two silly hits over just, yeah, gauging something inaccurately, or just moving just a tiny bit too far in one direction. And so, yeah, that's something you really, really got to watch for in this game. So anyway, here we are, the stage 2 boss. So unlike the normal run, where at the end of each stage, excluding the final stage, of course, you get to choose either life or bomb. Here in boss rush mode, you get one of each after every fight. And so that, in ways, it kind of feels as though it might be better, but you still really got to watch, because I'm not sure if, I think it was the run before, like the boss rush mode run before this recording. Sometimes you'll just take a hit and you'll be so close to charging up your gauge, so you'll kind of say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to panic and use a bomb. But then you end up taking another hit, like, oh, like you just have to be paying so much attention to all this stuff. Here's a great example, actually, of how they're very small pebbles, and just the dart-like projectiles that we deal with too. Sometimes it can be tricky picking things out when there's just a lot of stuff happening all at once, or when some of the attack patterns are overlapping with each other, and you need to pick out the tiny pebbles tucked just in this array of color that is just this brilliant, confusing mess. It's just fantastic. But for those who don't know, I love this game. It gets a lot of negative feedback. I have done a few videos on this game. I've talked about, I actually did a very in-depth examination on this one earlier in the year, and I had a blast. I learned so much more. I noticed so much more when I started doing that project, and my appreciation for the game just grew immensely. So it's always great. This is one of the few games that I always come back to playing, whereas a lot of games, they just don't hold up in that way. So I'm not saying that to say that you're gonna love it if you ever do jump into this game, but I could talk about this game for a long time, and there's just something incredibly magical about it. I just love it, and just the things you got to balance. And it's very different in boss rush mode, whether you're playing normal runs or boss rush. You kind of just need to make these adjustments to your approach just to get through each stage, and it's a blast. I just love it. So anyway, here we are. Just for those who don't know the game, the way it works is pretty simple. There are 2 playable characters. I prefer the girl. That's her name. The other is Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper has a spread shot. I don't feel it's the most effective. Maybe there's an approach or a way in which it can be really great. But I just prefer how concentrated the flow of projectiles are coming from the girl, and that's why I use her. Plus she has this thing where when you're using your focus shot for your like slow movement, there will be these little orbs that lock onto an enemy or a boss and just constantly do damage. So even though it's a bit of a trade-off, like obviously with the other character you have the widespread, but you don't have the whole lock-on as far as I know. But with this, obviously your flow of attack or bullets is very limited. It's just shooting straight. So it's like if you're on one side of the screen and the boss is on the other, you're not going to hit it. But of course you have the orbs, so that's kind of a bit of a trade-off for that. But I think it's fantastic. Anyway, more about how it works. You will see that little black gauge filling up around me. Anytime you're grazing, that fills up, and then you can go into what is called a soul collect mode, so you get a full bullet cancel, and I'm pretty sure you do more damage, but what also happens is, for this character anyway, all of those swords kind of gouge the boss or the enemy, and it does a huge chunk of boss health. So another really, really cool layer to this mechanic is if you are still in soul collect mode and you have a bomb available and you use a bomb during soul collect, you'll get another bullet cancel and your gauge will kind of like restart as if you just activated it. So you're getting another huge health gouge because you do another of those like spear attacks or whatever, the sword attacks. Plus you're just in the soul collect mode for that much longer. And what's really cool is when you get hit in this game, you kind of just get knocked back a bit, but you don't have to start filling your gauge from like brand new or anything. Like it stays where it is, so you can always continue. Sometimes in games, like you have to start filling a meter all over again when you take a hit. And I love that about this game. It's really handy. There are just some really brilliant things they've built into this game, and I just love it. Now, that being said, one thing you really got to watch, unlike a lot of different shmups, where you just, when you take a hit, excuse me, when you take a hit, you can just get that default amount of bombs. Here, you only have the bombs that you see on screen. So if I, let's say, lose all my bombs and then I take a hit, I don't get any more bombs with that next life that I start using. So you've really, really got to budget your bombs very, very wisely. And I think that's part of what I love about the challenge this game provides. Like, there's just this incredible balance between how much of a stage or a boss fight you can dodge, how much you can cancel when you activate your soul collect gauge, how quickly you bring a boss down, either because you are just playing very well or you're just making quick work of it by using a bomb while you're in soul collect mode. Like, there's just all these different layers of gameplay that just keeps this game so incredibly exciting to me. It has a bit of an adjustment phase. The first 3 days, I'm getting very close to clearing hard mode, like for the 1cc. But the first 3 days, it can feel like you're getting nowhere. And then all of a sudden, first run or first 2 runs of the day, on the fourth day, like, I was just blown away by how well I was playing. And I think it just kind of, you gotta give yourself time to, just let things sink in and let yourself adjust and warm up to it. And then that's when it really starts taking off and getting really, really good. So here we are at the last boss. I've obviously taken some hits, silly hits here and there. I'm not sure if it was in the last fight. I was just chatting and not even paying attention, so I wasn't really aware if it happened already, or if it's somewhere in this fight. It might be. But there's a time where I back right into a projectile, because the really cool thing with this is there are some really, really tricky and nasty attacks, like things that just materialize around you at certain parts of the fight. And so it's another perfect example of how you just have to be watching and paying attention. It gets absolutely bonkers at times. So here's a time where I use my bomb while in soul collect mode, because I didn't want to risk that. And I was actually thinking about this last night. I might as well mention it here. We'll probably see an example soon. But there's one time where, I think the boss, I don't recall if it's in the second half or what, but the attack it does draws your attention up the screen. Meanwhile, there are these orange colored darts that start showing up at the bottom, and I sometimes completely miss noticing this. Even though I know it's coming, sometimes you're just so focused that you don't even see these things showing up all around you. And then they start this very slow creeping movement towards you, and then all of a sudden you're taking a hit and you're like, holy smokes, I didn't even realize that was happening. And I just love that. This is one of the few games, if not the only game, where I've seen that kind of psychological effect put into action, and it's really, really cool. This game is just so good. So at this point, I think even before, like, I might have been at the end of the stage 3 boss when I had full lives, full bombs. Yeah, I was there. That attack we just canceled out. At the last split second, I noticed them behind me, and I just activated and was like, holy smokes. Or whatever it was I did there. These, like, patterns that are snaking around, these are sometimes so tricky to avoid. You kind of just gotta, like, move around and just move away from it, and just, I knew I was gonna take a hit there, like, but I was kind of just taking a chance in case I could somehow slide through along the bottom. But it's just bonkers stuff. But yeah, I think it was during the stage 4 boss of this run where I definitely backed into something. And here I'm just taking silly hits all over the place, because there's so much you're dealing with all at once. It's a really nasty final boss fight, but it's one of those things, the better you get at it, the more... And I knew I was trapped there, and now I cannot take another hit. If I lose that last life, the run is over. But we did it, so holy smokes. Yeah. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, I think I was talking about how you just got to kind of give yourself the time to piece things together bit by bit, and eventually you just start seeing the progress that translates to actually doing better and better as you go. And when you kind of just reach that area of your skills or whatever, that's when it really feels fantastic. But anyway, the video is about to end, so thanks so much for checking this out, and we'll see you next time.